This $25 deck is insane. It's built around Seasons Past. For 6 mana, I can return the best cards I've already played back to my hand to loop them again. That's great, but it doesn't start in our command zone, so how do we find it? Tutors. Since we're on a budget, everything costs a ton of mana, so we need to ramp. That's why I'm playing 42 lands and 25 ramp. But if you're ramping really hard, won't you just die on board? Yes, but no. This deck runs board wipes. They cost a lot of mana, but keep the deck fueled. Afterwards, I find some tutors and go for some really good spells to cast again and again, and then close it out with a big finisher. Simple, right? How does this look in practice? Early turns curve out with a lots of ramp. The more mana we have, the more advantage we'll have post board wipe. Afterwards, we tutor for Decree of Pain. This will allow us to wipe the board and protect our life total while accruing us card advantage to continue with our engine. After the board wipe, we tutor again for Seasons Past, use it to return the ramp, board wipe, and tutor all back to hand. We can keep looping the tutor with Seasons Past to allow us to keep recasting cards repeatedly, provided we have enough mana. Here we have a couple options. If we found another tutor by this time, we can go get Boundless Realms to double our mana. If not, then we can tutor for another tutor like Behold the Beyond or Final Parting, which will let us get more than just Seasons Past. End result should be we get to cast Boundless Realms. If your life total is in any danger, then you can wipe the board again and again. After we've gotten enough lands out of the deck and can keep the whole table debilitated, it's time for us to close. We can do so by looping Army of the Damned for a bunch of zombie tokens, or we can cast Exsanguinate for enough to drain the table to death. If they don't die the first time, just do it again. Turn after turn after turn. So who's the actual commander? I'm actually using two, Anara and Falthus. Neither of them are super great, nor support the game plan, but that's not why I use them. They're mostly used to deter attacking. If I'm afraid of attacks, I can throw out Falthus and Anara to be blockers to keep people from swinging into me for free early on in my setup turns. Anara also helps with making a way to close the game if all I can do is loop board wipe, since it gives my commanders indestructible. What about this deck's weaknesses? Because surely it's not that resilient, right? Well, inherently I can't stop anything on the stack, since I'm not in counterspell colors. But what I can do is get ahead of the problem by making everyone discard their hands with something like Awaken the Erstwhile. If someone's playing Oops All Counters, then they'll have a really fun time when we hit them with Thought Distortion. How about Graveyard Hate? This deck loops Seasons Pass, so if there's no graveyard, there's no looping. True, but that doesn't stop us quite as much as one might expect. Above being a graveyard deck, this is a toolbox deck. We can tutor up removal for something that's threatening our graveyard, and if we lose cards from our graveyard, it's not the end of the world, since we only really need to cast things like Boundless Realms once to get dramatically ahead. There's also some backup tech for if we lose Seasons Pass. Shigeki Jukai Visionary has an amazing channel ability, allowing us to return cards back to hand at instant speed. And if X is high enough, this can go positive and be looped with any regrowth effect. I built a whole Shigeki deck and it's a ton of fun to loop things repeatedly, but that's a topic for another time. This deck seems light on creatures, only running 8, including the partner commanders, but it has a surprising amount of survivability with looping board wipes and fog keeping me around. The only real weaknesses I've encountered is if I'm stopped from tutoring. I can deal with almost anything if I have access to my deck, since I have plenty of mana to cast whatever I need. But just like any other toolbox deck, I fold if I can't search for the answers I need. Sandbagging helps a little bit with this, as the counterspells will likely be fired off eventually on someone else's big threat, creating an opening, but it's something to watch out for. Before you consider building or playing with it or something like it yourself, make sure it's okay with your playgroup. It can be very frustrating for many players to have to face repeated board wipes that keep them from committing to the board meaningfully. It may mean that there's nothing there to be able to stop you, but that isn't always necessarily fun for everyone. This deck is efficient at enacting its game plan, even with overcosted tutors galore. Maybe it's the kind of thing you're looking for. Maybe it's just a cool deck you see someone on the internet build. Whatever it may be, I think we can all agree that it's unique. This has been Togo's Rock, and I am out.